Welcome back. We're here to look ahead to the game on the opening weekend of the Premier League season between Everton and Watford. Matt, we'll start with Everton. Last season, on the whole, quite underwhelming. Do you think they can improve on that this season?
I think they'd like to think they can, yeah, and the support was with us for certain. And Martinez, last season was poor, finishing in 11th. There was even a stage of the season where they were never really in danger of going down, but there were murmurings that maybe if they lose a few games, and they were sitting down in 15th, 16th, and really poor. Lost 15 times last season, 10 of which come on the road. And if you think of Everton, the season before where they really pushed Arsenal for the top four, they were very hard to beat on the road. Very strong partnership at the back. Jagielka's obviously, he had an okay season last season, but the season before he was exceptional at the back, and I think they need to get back to that. And Tim Howard's obviously another year older, and you got players in there. They've got a lot of good players, but Everton should really be better than 11th. Are they good enough to push for the top four this season? Not for me, but they should be challenging the likes of Southampton. Even the next clutch of teams you're talking about. Stoke, Swansea, teams like that, West Ham, top half of the table. And I think Everton fans would like to think maybe they can push for top six, but maybe they can battle Spurs. You never know, but maybe some more signings they need. But last season, like say poor. They were 12 points above the bottom three, but 23 points off the top four. That's nowhere near good enough.
I think the top four probably is too much of an ask. I think the top four this year are stronger, sort of further away than from the other teams than they were last season. But I think they'll certainly want to get into the conversation with Liverpool, Spurs, and they'll probably want to take Southampton's place in that sort of next three below the top four, 5, 6 and 7. Like I said, they want to get above Swansea, Stoke, Palace. Everyone's talking about Palace having a good season this year. They want to have better years than them. But I think you look at the sort of spine of their team now. You've got Stones in defence. He's still an Everton player at the moment. Chelsea, very public pursuit of him. They're very interested in signing John Stones. But I think if he stays there, him and Jagielka, that should be a very solid partnership. They haven't got European football this season. That was one of the reasons why they weren't as good last season. So they haven't got that. But you look at Stones and then Ross Barkley and Romelu Lukaku further forward. I think for Barkley, it's a massive season for him because he sort of broke onto the scene, looked fantastic. And when you see him playing really well, when he's drifting past players, he does stuff that not many other English players can do. You think maybe like Wilshere, the way Wilshere can dribble past players, but Barkley, the way he does it, I think he's brilliant at doing that. But so many times he doesn't look that interested. I was watching a pre-season friendly when they played against Leeds at the weekend, and Barkley he just couldn't be bothered most of the time. He was giving away needless passes where all he had to do was focus on what he was doing and give it to a man, but he misplaced passes, and he's got to get his head switched on. And I think it's the same for Lukaku. He last season wasn't great last season. He's still got a fantastic goal record for his age. Historically his record is brilliant for his age, but they signed him for 28 million last summer, and he led the line, didn't score as many goals last season, and it's certainly a big season for him, big season for Barkley, because if they're going to do well, they need those young players to really sort of start to realise their potential.
Yeah, as you mentioned, there's been murmurings that Manchester United might be looking at Lukaku. He's injured at the moment, which is probably a blessing because that cools down the interest. And talk about players that have come in, obviously signed cleverly as well, haven't they? In the middle of the park, who I think they'll do all right there. He gets a bit of bad stick, but he's a nice, tidy player. And Deulofeu is the interesting one for me at Barcelona. He's a player that's got all the ability in the world. You see it a lot of times for players, and attitude maybe not right. He went to Sevilla last season, didn't really get in the team because he got quite criticised by the Sevilla boss Emery. Saying his attitude's not really right. So that's obviously important for them to do that. And you mentioned how they've been in pre-season. I think you mentioned the Leeds game is quite interesting because they played Leeds and then Villarreal on the Sunday in Ferguson's testimonial, and the fact Barkley's in the Leeds team, he might have thought, because he wasn't a second string, but there was a lot of young players in the league against the Leeds, wasn't it? And then Villarreal they played, Barkley came off the bench second half. But Everton's pre-season, they've been up in Scotland, beat Hearts and Dundee, but lost to Leeds, like you say, lost to Villarreal. Villarreal very good that day, and lost to Arsenal in the Premier League Asia Trophy out in Singapore after going through against Stoke in the semis on penalties. So been a bit mixed, not great. They beat Swindon early on, but Swindon not really at that level, and it's been okay. But say if Lukaku's struggling with injury at the minute, which he is, and Kone up there, he's not done great in pre-season. Then they probably need another striker. Obviously losing Eto as well, but interesting season for Everton.
Yeah, moving on to Watford now, one of the teams to come up from the Championship. They finished second in the Championship last season. They should have won the league. They went into that final day top of the table, and then they were beating Sheffield Wednesday 1-0. Nuhiu scores a 90th minute equaliser, which gives Bournemouth the title. But Watford, I think with 10 games to go, I sort of looked at all the teams that were there, and I thought Watford would go on to get promoted because they could just outscore anyone. Their strike force they had last season. Deeney, he scored 20 goals. I think he got 21. Vidra, I think, got over 20 as well. And they were doing brilliant. But it was Igalo. He was the big surprise last season. Out of nowhere in January, he went on that fantastic run. I think it was about 13 in 8 games he scored. So when they had those three fit and firing, they were just unstoppable going forward. But it's been a huge summer of change at the club. Loads of new signings coming in, a new manager as well. They had 4 managers last season, and then they've got another one now. So I think they're the biggest question mark of the three teams coming up. We know that Bournemouth play exciting football. It's whether they'll be able to sort of do it against the better teams. And Norwich, Alex Neil, another young manager there. They haven't signed too many players, but I think Watford are the ones that, because they've just signed so many players, you just don't know if they're going to do fantastically or if they're just going to bomb and finish bottom.
Very interesting. You mentioned the new manager, Quique Sanchez Flores. Sorry, Atletico Madrid led them to Europa League title, and he was actually Getafe last season. It was a strange thing. He came on mid-season. He was only there a couple of months. I think it was something like they were selling Samir, who was a very good player. And Quique Flores didn't want to sell him. They ended up selling him, and he left because there was sort of a problem with the board. And he's come in. He's obviously a very talented manager, very experienced, and he can get the players in. Bought a couple of players from Spain. But the interesting player for me they bought is Neon for the left back. He was at Udinese. He was on loan at Granada, and he's a very powerful, athletic right back who can can deal with the physical demands of the Premier League. Good on the ball as well. And they bought other players in. Etienne Capoue as well. Come in. I'm not sure how well he's going to do. He's been an interesting one. And Bayrami's obviously a big one as well. Holibas they bought in. They bought some big names. And Betos, the centre back, the Uruguayan from Napoli as well. So I think you hit the nail on the head when you say you don't really know with Watford. They could either do very well and end up finishing 12th, 13th, or they could finish bottom of the table. I think they won when they were in the Premier League last season, 06-07, they only won 5 games, finished bottom. Could that happen again? Maybe they're stronger than that, but it'd be interesting.
I think it's certainly a difficult game for Everton to start with. Coming up against one of the newly promoted sides is always difficult. Watford, they haven't been in the Premier League for 8 years now, so they'll certainly be keen to make an impression. And with so many new signings, it's whether they gel well and it's an instant hit, or if they take time to adapt. Everton, they will start this game as favourites and probably should win. But what's your score prediction?
Yeah, I think Everton will win. This is actually the exact fixture from when Watford were last in the league, 06-07. This was the opening day fixture they played then. Quite strange the way that happens sometimes. But Everton at home are generally good, even though they struggled last season. I think they'll just nick it. I think it will be tight. I think Everton's win 2-1. 2-1,
yeah. I think it'll be a very tight game as well. I think Martinez will certainly want to shut down. I've mentioned Watford strikers how well they did last season. It's likely that only 2 of them will start, maybe even 1 if Flores decides that he needs to put more men in midfield. But I think, like I say, you're picking Everton 2, and I'm going to go for a 1-0 win. So both picking Everton to win this game by 1 goal. Thanks for watching.